Hey guys, some Gamer Dude here. Today's topic is one I'm surprised I haven't covered before, because I sure have thought about it a lot. The derivativeness of the entire card game entertainment medium and its impact upon it. Ready for a favourite clip of mine to come back?
Back to the beginning.
That will become a meme of my channel yet. A forced meme. It'll never be a meme. That aside, it's incredibly important to recognise the origins of all. It's not just Magic though, which is incredibly interesting. It may not seem like it, but it's Pokemon too, and probably some unknown and forgotten card games of the TCG boom of the early 90s. You could say Pokemon is derivative of Magic itself, but I don't see it outside of resource cards, which are used in an entirely different way. But saying Pokemon is influential isn't exactly the truth. It's more that Pokemon and Magic are influential on another game that is just as influential as Magic itself, Magic's little brother, Duel Masters. Duel Masters uses Magic as a base, but reconfigures Pokemon's unique prize system and frankly fixes it in Shields. From here, many Japanese games use something that in turn is a reconfigured Shield system. Magic clones were, and still are, a dime a dozen, Force of Will being the current flavour of the month. There being many LCGs that are derivative of it, and arguably Yu-Gi-Oh! Is too. Yu-Gi-Oh! May only seem superficially similar to Magic, but the game was designed for drama first in a manga, not as its own product promoted in a manga, like Duel Masters with its origins in Magic. Because of this, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a highly simplified and dramatized Magic the Gathering, but has its own interesting twists. Some I'd say have even more flavour than Magic itself, such as ritual cards, and many interesting card types Magic doesn't have, such as fusions and synchros. There is also a major argument for Vice Forts being original and influencing Vanguard, or to be more accurate, Vanguard is a refined Vice Forts. But I have a sneaking suspicion there may be some older Japanese card game that Vice might be influenced by. Or Universal Fighting System. Vice does share a lot of similarities in the control check and momentum to Vice's trigger check and stock, but I somehow doubt they're related. Interestingly enough, I don't think UFS has influenced anything else. Out of the major games right now, Magic, Pokemon, and probably Vice Forts are the primogenators. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has its origins in Magic, but has evolved so much it's an entirely new beast. Vanguard is a refined Vice Forts. Dragon Ball Super has influences of Duel Masters and Vanguard. Force of Will is basically an altered Magic that may be inspired by a dead Magic clone, the Spoils. Transformers has aspects of Vanguard, and Final Fantasy most as well be a flawed Duel Masters. Notice I was only critical of Final Fantasy there. There is a very deliberate reason for this. Final Fantasy takes Duel Masters and guts it of its spark. All of these other games may take core aspects of their gameplay from Pokemon, Magic, Duel Masters, Vice, each other, or older dead games, but that's not a problem in and of itself. None of these games are bad, but there is something ultimately more important where they innovate. Derivative just means that it's based on something else. Another word for it in this context would be inspiration. It doesn't necessarily denote banality. With the exception of Final Fantasy, all these games currently on the market have their own spark, their own quirk in their gameplay that gives them their own appeal, deviating them from their origins, inspirations, and competitors. They have their own identity. To be frank, originality is overrated. You can get just as far, if not further, taking someone else's work and seeing something they didn't or addressing the problems, in turn reconfiguring it into its own beast, building upon those that came before, learning from them, improving upon them, or putting a different spin on it. This is not a bad thing, so long as the end product has its own identity and is fun to play. What we're describing here is something more akin to a genre in film, TV, or video games. Calling games clones when aspects that are changed impact the gameplay greatly is as asinine as when shooters were called Doom clones Or worse yet, when Yakuza was called a GTA clone. It shows a complete lack of understanding the changes made and the impact they have upon the game. What the developer is ultimately trying to achieve needs to be taken into account. This is why Final Fantasy gets in my firing line, because they don't really want to achieve their own beast, but be something between Magic and Duel Masters with none of the appeal of either. This isn't true for any other game currently out. We can draw lines similar to 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but that just states influence, not outright intellectual theft or lack of individual vision. As I've stated, I don't see a problem with learning from others and making a competing product in the same vein, so long as the end product ends up with its own spark. I think Force of Will and Magic are arguably the closest on the market at the moment. Some Force of Will cards being outright plagiarism of Magic, but I do think Force of Will is different enough to warrant its own existence. The Stone Deck and the Ruler change the game in rather substantial ways, and the art causes the game to have a different feel to it. It's quite interesting to think that just these small changes are enough to make Force of Will feel like it has its own identity. This has been Some Gamer Dude, and thanks for watching.